Hey guys, what's up? So today we're going to be doing a review on the Porsche Panamera. Okay, so the first thing you see when you get inside the Porsche Panamera is all of these buttons. And there's a lot of them, and they all do different things. There's literally so many buttons and things to do in this car that it would take me a full video just to explain everything. So I'm just going to go over some of my favorite parts. So have you guys heard of dual climate control? Well, what Porsche decided to do is instead of having dual climate control, they decided to have quad climate control. That's one climate control for every seat in this car. So every single person can decide which climate they want to be in. Because you know, when you're spending this much money on a Porsche, you want to have the ability to have your own specific temperature. Another thing I really like about this car is the heat seats and cool seats. So you know, it's cold outside during the winter, you can turn on your heat seats, right? You know, it keeps your seats warm. And then you know, it's during the summer and you want to be cool, so you turn on your cool seats. But then Porsche is like, hey, you're spending this much money on a Porsche, you should be able to do both. So Porsche actually lets you turn on your heat seats and your cool seats at the same time. Now, I don't know why you would do this, but hey, if you're spending this much money, you should have the ability to do this. So on the side, they have adjustments for your mirrors, for your seats. There's so many ways to adjust your seats in this car. If you can think of a way to adjust your seat, you can adjust your seat in this car. You can move it up, down, left, right, side to side, turn it upside down. You can do whatever you want to your seat in this car. The next thing I really like about this car is the steering wheel. The steering wheel is really soft and really nice in your hand. You have the ability to shift up or left, up or down with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, and you can either do it with your left hand or your right hand. Because you know why? Because you pay this much money for a Porsche, you should be able to shift to your left hand or your right hand. Another thing they let you do is this gauge cluster. So on this gauge cluster on the Porsche, they have so many options. It shows you your temperatures, it shows you a map, it shows you radio stations. There's so many features on this one gauge cluster that you can just mismatch and choose whatever you want to display at any point in time. So one interesting feature about this Porsche is this little cubby right here. So when you see this cubby, what do you think? You think, oh, maybe that's like a cup holder or somewhere I can put change or something, right? And then you open it up and you can't put anything in there. It's just a cigarette lighter. I mean, this is a feature I don't really like because I don't smoke, and I don't know why you'd be smoking in such an expensive car, but hey, if you want to, it's that feature. But I think it would have been better if they put something else here, but hey, there's that cubby that you can put nothing in. And another thing is they have pretty good storage all over the car. You have these cubbies everywhere, cup holders, you have places to put your stuff on the side of the car, door handles. So there's plenty of room in this car to put things, so there's plenty of space, and the trunk space is also pretty good. They also have those cup holders that you can open and close on the side of the car, and then if you ever want to close it back up, you can close it back up. So they have those extra cup holders on the side. And other than that, basically any interior feature you can think of, they have. Another thing I really like about this car is the spoiler. So there's a little spoiler, it comes up around 70 miles an hour, 60 to 70 miles an hour, or you can put it up on yourself because you know, you just want to look cool. It looks cool, but it's a little small wing. The interior of this car is really nice. Everything's really nice. They have all these buttons. You can basically do whatever you want. Porsche basically just allows you to just do whatever you can think of. They pretty much thought of that and they put that in this car. Even the rear visibility of this car is not that great because of the seats and the way it is set up. So you can't really see out the back, but they have a backup camera for you, and they also have indicators for when you're turning lanes for your blind spot. So visibility is not an issue in this car because of all the technology they put into this car. One more thing is the back seats. So if you look at the back seats, there's only two. So this car only sits 4 people, but the back seats of this car are so nice. Sitting in the back of this car is basically like sitting in the front. The back seats were designed just like the front seats of this car. If you look at the seats, they're exactly the same. And the people in the back have just as much control as the people in the front. Just as I said earlier, there's quad climate control. If the people in the back want to have their own temperature, they can do that. They have their own armrests. They can put their own materials back there. Sitting in the back of this car is almost better than sitting in the front of this car because it's so good back there. So another really cool feature about the Porsche Panamera is the door. So in most cars, you know, when you open the door, there's always those little notches, so you can only open the door in like certain places. Well, for the Porsche Panamera, they actually don't have those notches. What they have is, like, you can just open the door, and wherever you place the door will stay there. So you can just place the door, and then it'll stay there. And another really cool thing about this door also is you don't have to actually fully close the door. You can just like slightly close the door, and the door will close itself. So that's another cool thing. And another cool thing this Porsche has, it has all these buttons up top. So you have a sunroof you can open up. You can have these buttons set. So if you want to open a garage door or anything, you have They have all these other features in this car. There's just so many buttons, like it's ridiculous how many buttons there are and how many things you can do with this car. And you know, when you're sitting in this car, what you really notice is the quality, and everything just looks really like well made and everything. My last favorite thing is the key for the Porsche. So the coolest thing about the Porsche key is the key is actually a Panamera. So if you ever looked at a Porsche key before, all Porsche keys are actually Panameras. So when you buy a Panamera, your key is actually your car, which is really cool. So that's probably one of my favorite parts, that the key is actually the car. So whenever you drive your car, you just take your little car with you. But yeah, those are some of the interior features that I find really cool in this car. So let's turn on this car and see how it drives. So this car is keyless entry. So you don't really need to put your key in or anything, but there's still a handle to turn the car on, because that's just the Porsche way. Now I've driven this car before, since this is my dad's car. And my initial impressions of this car when I first drove it were just the comfortability of this car. This car is really comfortable, and it should be. If you're spending that much money on it, it should be really comfortable. But this is probably one of the most comfortable cars I've ever been in. It absorbs like bumps like really well. If you're going over some bumps, you just don't feel them in the road. It's crazy. So when you drive this car normally, it's already in like a normal mode. There's no sport mode or anything. And this mode, just the basic driving mode, is made purely, I think, for comfortability of this car. Because this mode, like, there's 7 gears in this car, right? And right now I'm driving 35 miles an hour. I'm already in 6th gear. The car already shifted. I didn't feel a single shift. Like, the transmission of this car is ridiculous, because I didn't feel a single shift. Like, it just shifts automatically, and it's so good you don't feel anything. But one thing you do notice about this mode, since it's like made for like comfortability and it shifts so early and everything, it does feel like the car's like getting held back by something. The best way I can explain it is like something's holding the car back. But I'll get to that point later on in the video. What's really nice about driving this car is the transmission. So the way the transmission is, it's basically a manual transmission that shifts automatically. But the thing I like about it is, because of that, when you're driving around, if you want to, like, let's say shift down a gear, since it's made that way, when you shift down a gear on your steering wheel, it's instant. This is the Porsche PDK transmission. It's instant, and it's just automatic, and it's super smooth and everything. So it just makes everything super smooth when you're driving and shifting in this car. So after driving this car for a little bit, the best way I can describe the car in its regular normal mode is just comfortable mode. That's what this car is made out to be. It's just made to be in comfortable mode from the start. So let's say you're looking for a car to be really comfortable and everything like that, you want to keep this car in that comfortable mode, and it'll do that for you. But what I really like about this car is when you go from comfortable mode to sport mode, because when you go from comfortable to sport, this car becomes a completely different animal. So in most cars, or the most cars I've been in, when you put it in sport mode, you don't feel like a very big difference. But in this Porsche, you definitely feel a big difference. This car goes from a quiet, comfortable, like, you know, like classy Porsche to a real Porsche, like something you see like on the track. It turns into a completely different animal. The car shifts later, it revs higher, and you actually feel the shifts in the gears. Like right now it's super comfortable, but the second you put it in the sport mode, you start feeling the gears, you start feeling the shifts a lot more, and the car gets a lot rougher, but it gets a lot faster also. As I said earlier, when the car is in comfortability mode, it feels like there's something holding it back, but the second you put it in the sport mode, that weight is lifted off the shoulders and the car just goes. The thing that I think is kind of, I wouldn't say dangerous, but I think it's kind of, this car kind of tricks you. So since this car is so comfortable and everything, when you're normally driving it on the highway or something, you don't really feel the speed that much because of its comfortability. So you'll be just driving on the highway cruising, and then next thing you know, you're going 80, 90 miles an hour, and you're like, whoa, I'm speeding over the limit. Like that's how comfortable this car is. Like you'll be driving that fast and the car feels like it's going 60. Like it's ridiculous. Another thing that's really cool as I'm driving this car is there's a little indicator that tells you the speed limit of the road you're driving on. So I think that's really cool how it just includes that. And another thing that's really interesting about this car is because of the transmission, whenever you're at a stop, you would think, oh, maybe the car should be in first gear or something, but the car actually stays in second gear throughout the whole time. Even if you're at a complete dead stop, the car starts in second gear. I'm not really sure why it does this, but I think it's a little interesting feature. I think it just does this because, like, for comfortability, it would be more comfortable if you start off in second gear than first gear maybe, but the car always starts in second gear. So another interesting thing about this car is when you're at a stop, it feels almost as if the transmission is disengaged from the car itself. So, you know, usually, let's say you're in like an automatic car and you're at a stop at 0, it feels like the car is always like pushing forward because, you know, you're just holding the brakes, but the car's still trying to go forward. But in this car, it feels like the transmission's disengaged, so it just feels like the car is in neutral and not trying to push. So when the car's at a stop, there's no like shake or anything. The car's just still, you know. So that's just another thing that just makes the car even more comfortable. So let's put the car in sport mode and see how it feels. So when the car goes in sport mode, it automatically shifts down a gear and the car feels way faster. Now this Porsche is just a regular Porsche, no turbo, nothing, no forced induction. It's just a regular naturally aspirated engine, and it's still fast. I think this car has around 300 something horsepower. This car definitely weighs a lot because of everything in it, but it's still quick. And I've been in the turbo version of this car when my dad test drove it, and that car is even quicker, and that car is scary quick because when you put your foot down in that car, you get pushed back in your seat, but this car you still feel the power. So this car is definitely no joke when you put it in sport mode. And that's what I really like about this car. This car is for those people who want like comfortable daily driving, let's say on the weekdays, and then on the weekends, if you ever want to have fun and enjoying fun, you just put it in sport mode and it just unleashes, and it's just a real Porsche at that point. So this car is really for those car enthusiasts who just don't want like a boring old like sedan or something to just drive and be comfortable. This is for those people who want to have that comfortability and that entertainment, and that's definitely what you're getting with this car. Another good thing about Porsches is they hold their value really well. So if you, let's say you buy a new Porsche or an older Porsche, like you can keep that value of that Porsche is going to stay where you bought it. So when you trade in this car, you're still going to get a lot of bang for your buck. So I think that's a really good thing about Porsches, is they keep their value really well, more than other cars. Another really cool thing I like about this car is there's a little button to raise the top of this car. So let's say you're going over a speed bump or anything, you can just press that button and go over that speed bump. So it's just really nice because you don't have to worry about scraping or anything on this car. And there's also one more button that lets you lower the car even more for a more aggressive sport mode. And when you put it in that sport mode, the car is lower, it handles a little bit better because it's lower, and it's just another added sport mode. So if you want to go sport plus, let's say you're going on a track or something, you put it in that mode, and then the car will be even lower and handle even better. When you're done with sport mode, you just click the button again and it goes back normal, shifts up a gear, and it's just really calm. I think this Porsche Panamera is a really nice car. I think it's actually one of the better Porsches that there are, because it's just so different than the rest of them. Like, you know, you think of a Porsche, you think of a 911, you think of the small little car, and then this, you get like a bigger car. You basically get double the Porsche with one car. You know, you get twice the room, and you still get the performance, and you get more comfortability. While when you get, like, let's say a 911, you get smaller room, you get performance, and maybe you lose a little bit of comfortability. But with this, you really get the whole package. So I think the Porsche Panamera might actually be one of the best Porsches out there. So yeah, guys, this does it for the review for the Porsche Panamera. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below. And I think later on, I'm going to do a video about literally all the little features this car has, because there's so many of them. I think I can fit it into just one video for all the little features it has. So if you stay tuned, maybe I'll make that video. But yeah, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. You can subscribe to the channel and see more videos like this also. And yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good day.